Yeah, tonight I'm just going to give a very short expose, if you like, about a crash that happened in World War II that has been missing for over 60 years, and it's recently been refound. So, as I said, there's a crash that happened that emanated from this airfield on the 20th of February 1942, and it crashed 9 minutes from here, and I'll now give you a little bit of an update on that. So it was a Qantas, it wasn't a military aircraft, DH-86 VH-USE Express. It was called RMA Sydney. It took off from here at 8:30 a.m. on the 20th of February, which was the day after the bombing of Darwin. There were 2 military personnel on board heading to Darwin. So whether they were heading up there to do some investigation, I'm not sure. It crashed about roughly 9 or 10 minutes later at the foothills of Mount Petrie. All 9 people on board were killed. So this was one of the 14 fatal aircraft crashes that Qantas has had. After about 20 years, as I said earlier, the site of this crash, a generation, after a generation of people had passed away, the site was lost, inverted commas, and almost forgotten about. On the 13th of May, Fred Wimmer, the guy there on the right, found the aircraft crash site near Mount Petrie, about 2.5 kilometres east of the Gateway motorway at Burbank, right in the middle of Brisbane. So I used to drive past it on the way to work every day, 2.5 kilometres that way. Fred thought he had found this particular crash site that I mentioned on the previous page. He got on to AHSA Inc. member Mark Pilkington, who lives at Lara, and he helped Fred to identify some of the parts that he had recovered as being from a de Havilland aircraft. So he still wasn't 100% sure that it was from that particular aircraft on that previous slide. Fred then contacted me a few weeks later on the 27th of May and shared some photos of the artefacts he had found at the site. You can see what happened to the aircraft when it hit the ground. It didn't catch fire, though they did burn some of the wreckage later. There's some of the artefacts. I've actually got some of them here. There's a penny that was found, a key, and a 6pence, but there's a lot more, and I wasn't going to, there's even a lot more than what you see on the screen here. Fred invited me out. I visited the site on the 3rd of June, and Fred lent me his metal detector. He had 2 metal detectors, so he lent me a metal detector. I swung it a few times and immediately got a target. When Fred found the site, there was nothing to be seen. It's all underground. He did see a little bit of foam sticking up out of the ground. So I got a target. I dug down a very short distance and I pulled up a small rectangular piece of brass, this little bit here. When I cleaned the dirt off it, it said L.S. Marshall. I quickly grabbed my copy of my webpage on the crash and immediately noticed that the chief officer or the co-pilot on that flight was Lindsay Stewart Marshall, the co-pilot of the DH-86. So I got a shiver go up the back of my spine because, this belonged to someone who'd passed away right where I was standing, along with 8 others. And that confirmed conclusively that Fred had indeed found the crash site of VH-USE, which had been lost for around about 60 years. Jeff Nielsen has included an article that I put together, a detailed article in our newsletter, which will be coming out tomorrow. And that'll go into much more detail on the incident and how it was found and how Fred found it. I won't talk about that tonight. And John at the back here, whose birthday it is today, was instrumental in having the original memorial for this tragic crash erected at Carindale Shopping Centre way back in 2005. That had to be removed because they were extending the shopping centre, but we'll be in discussions with John and probably next week if we can to talk about memorial sites.